Real-Time World's Dave Jones. Many thanks for agreeing to this. How did the speech go this morning?
I think it went well.
Yeah.
You know, I always get excited when I start talking about the game, you know, and obviously I want to touch upon a lot of the kind of new design kind of driven bits of the game, the challenges, but we get excited about, it seemed to be a good reaction from people.
Yeah. One thing that was rather conspicuous by its absence there was a release date.
Yes.
You said at E3 it was early 2010, if I recall.
Still is.
Still the same thing.
Still aiming for spring, yeah.
Okay. One thing I would like to clear up, because I got quite excited when you started saying it was a server-based game, so I was just like, oh my god, it's like the first big cloud game sort of thing, but it's not, right? It's a sort of traditional MMO client on the computer sort of thing.
Yeah, clients on the computer, yes.
Right.
And really what we're doing is, we're throwing high-spec servers and data centers and they are high-spec because we want to run a lot of the game on a server and then use the power of the client, just to amplify the experience. Right,
okay. So, can you just explain the decision to limit it to 100 players per server? Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's a performance issue, right?
It's a performance issue. It's actually it touched design as well, funnily enough. So it is a performance issue. I mean, to get 100 people, a live dynamic, nobody's done that kind of game before. So first of all, it needed a combination of clients and a good server.
Right.
So yeah, that was also an issue, bandwidth, etc. So it was a number we felt could deliver quite a dynamic experience. You'd always be crossing the paths potentially of other players, etc.
Right, okay.
But it's also an important number from a matchmaking perspective because as I said in the talk, we use players as content. And even if you take the perfect case of say 50 people playing criminal, 50 enforcers. And then let's say 60–70% of those are kind of matched up at any time. Matches can last from 5 minutes to 10 minutes. It means there's always players free in the pool, as somebody else needs a match that we can go in and grab, etc. So it was what's the number that we need to make sure that a certain percentage of the pool are kind of just come out of a mission and are ready for a dispatch against another bunch of players.
Right. Just to sort of allay a few fears. You said that every time you go back into the world, you're not sure who you're going to be encountering, and the city will be very different. You're still going to be able to play with your friends, right?
Oh, absolutely. Right, okay. Yeah. So
clan supports and
absolutely.
Stuff like that,
there is a traditional kind of server list, a bunch of cities that are online, and really what defines them is the people that are in them at the time, and really who's maybe controlling a city most, so are the enforcers dominating this city, and you think, hey, wouldn't it be great if we go in and swing that city to be more dominated by the gangs? Yeah. But at any time you can say, just take me to my friends. I just want to, whatever city they're in, you don't have to think about it, I just want to just jump into where this person here is.
So is each server is persistent, so each city
Correct.
is a server, right?
Is a server, exactly.
So you can have essentially endless turf war battles for the server, right?
Correct.
Okay, and so do you have to sort of pick your side, if you see what you mean? Is your character, just an enforcer?
He is.
Right, okay.
That's the biggest decision you make when you start the game.
Right.
You create your first character, because you're locked to that bit.
Okay.
Do I want to be an enforcer, or do I want to be a criminal?
Right, okay. And is there a leveling system as well?
There's a progression system.
Right.
What we didn't do was we didn't want players to become so powerful that, we then had to kind of start segregating the players off, because obviously, if do a lot of stats progression. At some point, you have to segregate the player database into these are new characters, these experiences. These can kill these in one shot. So we actually toned all that side down and said, you can get better weapons, but really it doesn't swing the balance massively. For example, say I think we're looking at about roughly 20%. If you just look at it in plain numbers, 20% down.
Right.
So there's not. But you do have what's called a rating, which is things like how much of the game you consumed. We have a threat for every player, so you can look at a player and say, I know he's a good player, and a threat is purely based upon kills, how many missions you've completed in success. So you have a threat rating as well.
Okay, and the vehicle customization stuff, you've never mentioned that before, I don't think.
Oh, right.
Right, I don't think so.
Okay.
You said that you needed to make something that was better than Forza.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. In what respect?
Just in the way that they're kind of quite restricted and limited in how you can place your decals a lot of the time.
Right. Okay.
Ours completely mirrors what we've done with the characters. I mean, it's completely free form. We have many more layers. So we have everything they've done, but in terms of actually, how deeply you can customize, especially the paint jobs and the decals and everything, we've surpassed them.
Is there like a set of vehicles, or can you build your own vehicles in it? Or?
There's effectively a set of chassis in the game,
Right, okay.
so base vehicles, and then there's the complete range of body parts and and modifications for each of those vehicles.
And you've clearly picked the online space as the way to move with real-time worlds as an entire venture. And what is it that's turning you off the sort of traditional models at the moment?
Well, one thing obviously is just the effectively the value chain. So it's kind of hard as as we talked about for a developer with the value chain we have just there with publishers involved and distribution and retail. It really carves the pie up. And so in some respects that's bad for the industry as a whole, I believe. Because it's hard then for developers to say, I want to do something new, try something new. It's just so risky because even if you have a fairly successful game, you may just break even, like you said, like we did with Kraken. And so I think that's wrong. So I think we have to look at hey, we're a digital company. If anybody's going to be digital direct to the consumer, it has to be the games companies.
Right.
So.
But saying that though, you have basically done a deal with EA partners.
Yep.
What's the sort of the nuts and bolts of that deal? Why do you need EA?
Well, at the end of the day, we still have effectively a big client to distribute.
Right.
So it is a traditional game in that this is a 5 or 6 gig game. It has to ship on a DVD. Are we at the point yet where we felt comfortable that people can just want to bypass retail completely and download 5 or 6 gigs? No, we're not really comfortable with that. So if that point comes in the future, which everybody's talking about, then I think we'll be reactive to that. We won't be proactive in trying to make that happen. What we want to be proactive is in saying, right, we think now's the time where you can actually run a highly dynamic action game on a server and start to deliver at least new experiences, which is the main reason why we did it. There's a lot of companies out there doing great single player games. There's a lot of companies doing great, kind of multiplayer components to those games, but traditionally they're still lobby based. What I call symmetrical map. Wait for 8, wait for this 8, go in, have a game, come out. We wanted to create something much more deep.
Right. And do you think it's important for an independent developer to still have that sort of publisher marketing grunt? Essentially, it's not just about the disc, right?
No. I mean, that's why we went with the. At the end of the day, in terms of marketing and distribution, they're a powerhouse. They really are. And absolutely, we needed that. But then, effectively, when their job's done, our job begins. It's in there, it's live, people are playing it. We need to work with them because they're our direct, customer effectively. Sure. We want to be playing this game, and asking for what do you want to see next. Because for the first time ever, we can be reactive very quickly. It's not about it's gone in a box, it's off, there's nothing we can do. We can evolve and adapt this game really quickly depending on what the players want.
But what about extra content? I'm assuming you're going to effectively, as soon as the game's out, a guy from Paul Barnett said last year, it's like giving birth. It's just the start, right?
It is just the start.
So all of your efforts then go into content creation.
Yeah.
But you're working on a second game, which you mentioned in Newcastle.
Yeah. We've always said. On our website, we've always said. We have 2 teams. Been working on a second game for a while. That one's still, fairly early on, and it's once again, it's online based. But it's a very different game.
Right.
So we've gone after 2 completely separate markets. Really.
Is it an action game?
I'm not saying anything on it. I'm just saying it's very different. I don't know how to define it.
Okay.
So in some respects, I'd rather just say, here it is,
right.
Explain it, let people see it, and they can make up their own mind. How would you classify that kind of game?
Okay. When do you think we're going to see the first sort of bits of sort of extra content after APB ships? Is it going to be a regular? Obviously, with games like World of Warcraft and Eve, they have different ways of putting content into the world. Are we going to see that sort of same style of like a massive update every couple of twice a year or whatever?
Yeah, obviously we'll be doing the regular kind of every month we're looking at small changes that people are screaming out for, which actually can have a big effect and change the game.
Sure.
But I have to say with APB we're not thinking that this is just going to be let's release another city, for example, and it's the same kind of missions and just more of the same content. I think I've said before, we want to expand APB what I call horizontally.